I had just finished tying the silver ribbon around the last gift when my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. The scent of cinnamon and cloves hung in the air, warm and familiar, curling up from the oven where my final tray of shortbread cookies was browning. The tree twinkled quietly in the corner of the living room, light set on a slow fade. A new ornament for Finn, my grandson, nestled front and center. A little wooden airplane with his name etched in gold. The message was from Caleb. "We're swamped this year. No time to travel. Let's do a Zoom after lunch." That was it. No sorry, no wish, not even a half-hearted emoji. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard, unsure what I could even say. The timer on the oven beeped twice before I remembered to take the cookies out. I moved on autopilot, placing them on a cooling rack, brushing the tops with powdered sugar like I'd done every year since he was 10. I didn't respond to the text. Instead, I folded the quilt I had spent the past 3 weeks hand-stitching. Forest greens, soft blues, a pattern of stars, and pine cones I thought Finn would love. I'd even sewn his initials into the corner, barely visible, just like I used to for Caleb's baby blankets. I placed it on top of the toy box I'd filled for him. Books, puzzles, a stuffed fox I found at the holiday market downtown. I sat down at the kitchen table, the one my husband and I had bought secondhand in 1985, and stared at the 2 extra chairs across from me. They were meant for Caleb and Danica this year. I'd even ironed the linens and picked up extra almond milk for Danica's coffee. When the wind howled outside, I pulled my shawl tighter and looked out at the frozen lake beyond my backyard. It was beautiful and quiet and completely still. In that silence, I wrapped each cookie in wax paper and placed them gently in a tin labeled for Caleb. The envelope was thick yellow, heavy, and marked "Priority Overnight" in bold red letters. I found it wedged between a catalog and a heating bill on my front porch, dusted with frost and stamped from Palo Alto. I assumed it was something belated from Caleb. A card, maybe a late apology. I opened it, standing by the door, boots still wet from the snowbank. Inside were neatly clipped documents, glossy and official. The first page bore the name of a luxury car dealership and the words, "Invoice paid in full." Below that, Tesla Model Y, pearl white full self-driving upgrade all-weather package. The total came to $52,036.2. Then I saw my own name, Amber M. Moore, co-signer. My hands went cold. Tucked beside the papers like an afterthought was a neon pink sticky note written in Danica's unmistakable bubble script. "Thanks for helping with the car, Mom. It's really a gift for me. You're amazing. First payment, Feb. 5th egg, 6D. I had never spoken to a single person at a dealership. I had never signed a thing. I stared at the invoice again, waiting for the paper to transform, to reveal a joke, a mix-up, a prank. But the account number was there, my name, my address. I sat down at the kitchen table and read the loan document line by line, searching for something I missed. When I got to the part with my signature, my breath caught. It was there, digital, slightly slanted, but not mine. It mimicked my handwriting, but the angle was wrong. The loops were too neat. Caleb had copied my signature once in the 3rd grade to get out of a missed assignment. He hadn't gotten better at it. I waited for a phone call for an explanation, for Caleb to check in or ask or confess. None came. Instead, 2 hours later, I got a Venmo request for $38,964 labeled Tesla insurance. It had a party hat emoji. I deleted it and sat still for a long time. Then I reached for my reading glasses and opened the second page. The numbers on the page blurred as I sat at the table, the Tesla loan still in front of me. But it wasn't the $52,000 price tag that unsettled me. It was the realization that this wasn't new. This was just the biggest example yet. After Caleb's startup collapsed 5 years ago, he called me from a rooftop bar in San Francisco, whispering that he'd maxed out 3 credit cards and hadn't told Danica. I wired him $6,000 that afternoon. No questions, just quiet panic and love. When Danica ended up in the ER after one of the IVF attempts, they sent me the bill. It was coded as urgent with red highlights and words like uninsured. I paid it. They said they'd reimburse me once Caleb got his bonus. He never mentioned it again. The wedding was next. Their venue added $8,000 in surprise charges the week before, and they didn't want to start marriage stressed. Caleb asked in a voice low, ashamed, or pretending to be. I dipped into the CD I'd opened after my husband died and covered it. Danica sent a thank you basket with expensive olives and a candle that smelled like sunscreen. Then came the rent, just 1 month when Caleb was between jobs. Then a second when Danica had a creative hiatus. The third came silently. No ask, just a transfer request in my banking app. Each time I told myself it was love, that I was filling a gap his father would have covered if he were alive. That this was how mothers show up. But somewhere along the way, the thank you stopped. The hesitation disappeared. The requests became assumptions. It wasn't always about money. Sometimes it was Caleb telling me they couldn't fly in because Finn had the sniffles, then posting photos from Disneyland 3 days later. Or Danica casually asking if I could update Finn's preschool tuition payments because she was juggling collaborations. Now I stared at the Tesla papers that forged signature and saw it clearly for the first time. I hadn't been helping. I'd been financing their life without permission. And now they'd crossed the line from expectation into entitlement. I called the dealership that morning, my voice steady but low. The loan documents spread out in front of me. The woman on the other end was polite, overly cheerful, until I asked to verify the co-signer's signature. There was a pause, then the sound of keys tapping. Yes, she said after a moment. We received the co-signature via DocuSign timestamp 2 weeks ago. Looks like it was signed from an IP registered to Los Altos. Can you send me a copy of what you received? I asked. Of course it arrived 5 minutes later. The digital file opened with a click. And there it was, my name scribbled in perfect loops, a slightly artificial curve on the capital M. I hadn't signed anything. Not with my hand, not online, not over the phone. Someone had taken my name and applied it like a stamp. I didn't call Caleb. I couldn't. I didn't trust what I might say, but he texted me that afternoon. You got the invoice right. Thought it'd be cleaner if it came straight from the dealer. Just cover it monthly. It's easier this way. No greeting, no question, no apology. I stared at his words, at how casual he made it all sound like this was some routine family errand I'd agreed to months ago. I typed a single reply. No, less than 5 minutes later, a new message appeared. This time from Danica, it's already public. Callista, I posted a thank you post. Please don't make this awkward. She added a screenshot, a photo of her hugging the Tesla in their driveway, dressed in matching white with the car. The caption read, "Can't believe my MI got us a car. Blessed, dream-driven, family first." It had hundreds of likes and 3 dozen comments praising my generosity. I sat down slowly, pressing my fingers into the edge of the kitchen table, grounding myself against the rising heat behind my eyes. I had been erased and replaced, and now they were parading the lie like a badge of honor. By the next morning, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Notifications from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Old neighbors, former colleagues, even someone from my book club who had moved to Arizona. All of them wanted to say the same thing. Such a generous mom. You're amazing. Callista. Wow, a Tesla. That's next-level love. My inbox was full of emails with subject lines like, "This is so sweet," and "Did you really buy them?" Some of the messages felt genuine, others just nosy. The worst were the ones that congratulated me for finally getting the recognition I deserved. I didn't reply to any of them. Callie called me that afternoon while I was sorting laundry. Her voice was tight with something between awe and suspicion. "Why didn't you tell me about the Tesla?" she asked. "I mean, I know you've helped them before, but this is, well, it's a lot." I didn't have the energy to explain. I just said I hadn't told anyone because there wasn't anything to tell. She paused, probably unsure what I meant, but let it go. That evening, I logged into Facebook and quietly deleted the account. I set my Instagram to private and removed every tagged photo Danica had ever posted of me. Filtered brunches, posed birthday dinners, captions about family love that felt hollow even at the time. I turned my phone face down and sat at the kitchen table with the lights off. Through the window, the lake was frozen over, still and silver in the moonlight. I tried to remember the last time Caleb had come to visit without needing something. I couldn't. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, blinking in the dark, and wondering how long I'd been a prop in his life, a background figure who could be mentioned when convenient and forgotten when not. The next morning, an email from Danica slid into my inbox like ice water. "We know you're not happy, but remember, appearances matter. Let's not ruin the vibe." I didn't answer. Instead, I opened a new browser tab and searched for the number to my bank. I dialed the number to the bank with fingers I had to force to stay steady. The hold music played for 13 minutes before someone answered. I verified my identity 3 times, then asked the representative to review all linked accounts and any third-party access. "Do you want to freeze all external connections, Ms. Moore?" "Yes," I said, "all of them." It took less than 5 minutes. Every authorized user gone, every backup email, every shared login flagged wiped. The woman on the line spoke kindly, but I could hear the curiosity in her voice. I didn't offer a story. I wasn't ready to say it out loud. Next, I called the dealership and asked to speak to someone in their legal department. I explained the forged signature. The woman took notes and said someone would contact me within 72 hours. I asked for a written statement confirming that the loan was not yet finalized in person. She agreed. After I hung up, I found Henry's number. We hadn't spoken in a year, not since the retirement party for our old superintendent. He picked up on the second ring. "Callista, wow, it's been a while." I explained everything in clipped sentences. The Tesla, the DocuSign, the forged ID. He was quiet for a beat, then asked for the timestamp and IP log, which I had saved. "They spoofed your digital ID," he said. "Likely used cached access from an old shared device." "You didn't authorize it, Cal." "I didn't," I said. "And now I need to make sure it gets undone." "You want advice?" "No, I want results." That evening, I called the financing office at the dealership and asked to speak to a supervisor. When a man named Victor came on the line, I gave my full name, loan number, and said what I'd been rehearsing all day. My name was used fraudulently. I didn't sign. "I want the vehicle repossessed immediately." There was a pause. He asked me to confirm again. I did. "Understood," he said. "We'll begin proceedings." I didn't tell Caleb. I didn't tell Danica. I let the silence do its work. 2 days later, the storm hit. Not here. Not outside my window, where the lake was calm and the snow had started to melt in soft rings around the tree trunks, but in California, where Danica had just begun her morning live stream. She was in the driveway, camera angled toward the Tesla, talking about manifesting abundance and knowing your worth. I wasn't watching live, but someone forwarded the clip to me later that afternoon. It spread fast. I watched it once silently, teacup in hand. In the middle of her monologue, a white tow truck pulled up behind her. She kept talking until a man in a reflective vest stepped into frame. "Ma'am," he said, polite but firm, "I need to take the vehicle." Danica blinked, laughed, looked off camera. "Wait, what's going on?" "That's my car," she snapped. The stream cut off seconds later. My phone rang not 5 minutes after that. "Caleb." I let it buzz once, twice, then go to voicemail. He called again, then again, finally, a text. "Mom, what the hell did you do?" I blocked his number without responding. There was no satisfaction in it. Not the kind you see in movies where the music swells and the heroine stands tall. It wasn't revenge. It was removal. It was the act of closing a door that had been swinging open for too long, letting in cold air I'd mistaken for company. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just stood, breathed, and preheated the oven. I baked lemon muffins that afternoon. Real lemons, not box mix, and wrapped them in foil, still warm from the pan. I walked them 2 doors down to Joni, who opened the door with a smile and offered me her usual mug of spiced tea. We talked for an hour, mostly about seed catalogs and the rising price of eggs. She never once asked me for anything. That night I slept with the window open, and for the first time in weeks, the air felt clean. The next morning, I changed all my passwords. After the car was gone and the noise began to settle, I started to wonder what else they'd tried to take. I sat down at my desk with a notebook and a pot of coffee and opened every account I'd touched in the last 10 years. My checking, my savings, the credit union account I kept just for emergencies, the brokerage I rarely logged into except to check on the bonds Harold had set up for me before he passed. Then I opened the retirement fund, the one I never touched except to check the balance once or twice a year. There it was. 2 login attempts from an unfamiliar device. One successful, one flagged. The IP address traced back to San Jose. I hadn't been to San Jose in over a decade. I stared at the activity log, heart thudding slowly. That iPad I gave Caleb 3 Christmases ago. It must have still been logged into something. I thought I'd wiped it. Clearly, I hadn't done enough. The next day, I called a forensic accountant, a woman named Marcy, recommended by Henry. She was brisk and quiet and asked smart questions. I gave her access to everything. She called me back the following week. "There were 2 other auto loan inquiries in your name in the past 6 months," she said. "Both abandoned after credit checks. One was for a BMW, the other for a luxury camper van. Both out of state." My mouth went dry. I didn't need to ask who initiated them. I already knew. It hadn't just been about the Tesla. That had been the one that landed. The others were warm-ups. This wasn't miscommunication. This wasn't poor judgment. It was a pattern, a quiet system I hadn't known I was part of. Like a shared bank, they thought they could withdraw from indefinitely. They hadn't asked because they'd stopped seeing the need to. I closed the last browser tab and locked my computer. Then I walked outside to check the mailbox and found a thick white envelope with no return address. The envelope in the mailbox was from my attorney. I'd asked her to send the finalized version of my new will once the paperwork was filed. I brought it inside, made tea, and opened it with steady hands. It was all there, just as I'd requested. My estate, modest but clean, no longer flowed toward Caleb. Instead, it was now directed to 3 places: a scholarship fund for teen girls pursuing degrees in science and engineering, the West Haven Public Library, which was on the verge of losing its state funding, and Joni's Animal Shelter, which ran on donations and devotion and not much else. There was also a separate envelope tucked inside a note that would be delivered to Caleb only if something happened to me. It read, "Family isn't who invoices you, it's who protects you." No explanation, no apology, just clarity. I sealed it, slid it into the folder, and exhaled. Later that evening, someone forwarded me another of Dina's videos. She was crying on camera, makeup smudged just enough, sitting in the same driveway where the Tesla used to be. "Some people destroy their own family over money," she said through tears. "I guess I just wasn't born rich enough for her love." She paused, stared into the lens like she wanted someone, anyone, to rescue her. I clicked out of the video and closed my laptop. Then I opened each of my social accounts and one by one deleted them. Not deactivated, deleted, gone. There was no need to explain my side. The people who mattered already knew it. The rest had made up their minds, and I had nothing left to prove. When I shut the lid of my laptop, the house felt quiet in the best possible way. No noise, no performance, just the rhythm of my breath and the soft clink of the teacup against its saucer. I stood, rinsed it in the sink, and turned off the kitchen light. In the morning, I'd be meeting Joni at the shelter. The drive to Joni's cabin took just under 3 hours, winding through snow-dusted evergreens and quiet mountain roads that looked like they belonged in a postcard. Her nieces, Grace and Mabel, sat in the back seat with a tin of cookies on their laps and a Bluetooth speaker humming soft holiday jazz. When we arrived, the cabin was already warm, the fireplace glowing, the scent of pine and cinnamon tucked into every corner. We unpacked our overnight bags, stacked firewood, and set out the snacks we'd brought. Later, we roasted marshmallows over the flames. Our faces lit orange and gold. Joni poured cider into mismatched mugs and told stories from her childhood, making us laugh until we forgot what time it was. At one point, she looked at me over the rim of her mug and said, "You're the calmest I've ever seen you." I nodded, curling my fingers around the heat of the cup. "Turns out peace isn't in the people who drain you," I said. "It's in the ones who fill you back up." She smiled and leaned back, her eyes kind. When midnight came, we stood on the porch wrapped in blankets and watched the fireworks burst silently above the trees. Reds, greens, and silvers painted the sky, each flash brief but beautiful. I raised my glass of cider and said without performance or ceremony, to boundaries and to knowing when to say no. There were no phones buzzing, no guilt lingering in the background. I didn't wonder what Caleb was doing or if Dina was filming something dramatic under glitter lights. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel small. I just felt free. And in that freedom, I saw the quiet truth I'd been circling for years. Sometimes walking away isn't the end. It's the beginning of a life you no longer have to explain or apologize.